Good afternoon and welcome to an afternoon at the Opera. My name is Conor Duncan. I am the Director of Community Partnerships at Kensington Park Senior Living. This is our second week of our 4-week opera series. Today we are going to learn all about La Traviata, and we have our wonderful presenter here, Melissa Pate, who is our Director of Creative Arts Therapies. If you have any questions, you can write in the chat box. And I also put the link to last week's session in case you missed it. So I hope you enjoy. And again, thank you for being here. I'm going to pass it over to Melissa.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to an afternoon at the Opera. Like Conor said, I'm Melissa Pate. I'm the Director of Creative Arts Therapies here at Kensington Park. I'm thrilled to be presenting La Traviata today. So La Traviata is an opera by Giuseppe Verdi, and it's set to an Italian libretto by Francesco Maria Piavi. And if for those of you that don't know, a libretto is kind of like it's the Italian word for booklet, and it's the text that is used in or intended for a work like this, like an extended musical work, like an opera, an operetta, a masque, an oratorio, a requiem, something like that. So Giuseppe Verdi wrote the music, and Francesco Maria Piavi wrote the text of our selection today. So La Traviata is an Italian word that means the fallen woman. And this whole story centers around a woman named Violetta, or Violetta, however you want to pronounce it. And there's like this juxtaposition of fleeting pleasure and the realities of life. And you see this juxtaposition throughout the opera. And the fallen woman is a phrase that you hear Violetta sing quite often throughout the opera, as we see not only her physical body dying, but also her spirit dying as well. So a little background about La Traviata. This opera is based on La Dame aux Camélias, which is a play from the 1848 novel by Alexander Dumas. So when Giuseppe Verdi went to go see this play, they were visiting Paris from 1851 into March of 1852. And in February of this time, they attended a performance of this play. Again, this is just a play, it was not an opera, not a musical, it was just a play. The Lady of the Camellias. And as a result of seeing this, one of Verdi's biographers, Mary Jane Phillips Matz, says that Verdi immediately began composing music for what would be later, or what would become later, La Traviata. It's very likely that Verdi had read the novel itself before, but there was something about the play that was very inspiring to him. So much so that as he was, like before he even returned to Italy, he was already setting up the ideal operatic cast for it in his mind. So he was, this work by Verdi was very much inspired, and one of those things that just comes to you by inspiration. Francesco Maria Piavi was asked to write the new libretto, and Piavi and Verdi had tried to come up with a suitable subject for this, but it was kind of this weird middle place of wanting it to be original, wanting the subject to be original, but also understanding that in Venice at the time there was a lot of censorship, which Verdi had experienced in his former play of Rigoletto. And so, as the months dragged on into October, Piavi decided, he's like, you know what, I'm going to come to your home and we're going to work together to come up with a subject. And that's kind of where they were throwing around ideas and came up with the idea of La Traviata. Actually, before it was called La Traviata, it was just called Violetta, and then later was changed to La Traviata. So this opera centers around these two main characters of Alfredo and Violetta. Violetta is an upper class woman who has a patron who kind of funds her lifestyle, and Alfredo Guermant, who is a middle class citizen, very respectable, but it was this whole opera is played kind of out against the hypocrisy of upper class fashionable society. And what we see throughout this play is that Alfredo and Violetta's love threatens to shame Alfredo's family. And his father comes and appeals to Violetta to basically relinquish her love for him. And she submits to that, and she agrees because she loves Alfredo. And it kind of leads her to paying the ultimate price. And what we see at the beginning of this opera is we see the main character kind of before Act 1 beginning, praying and just sitting and crying, and she's ill. It's very likely that this character has tuberculosis or some other, at the time, incurable disease, but it's set in Paris. So as we're getting started, I'm going to go a few minutes into Act 1. We are at, the first scene is in Paris. It's at a party that she is hosting. We have the Baron Dufal, who is her patron, her admiring patron. We have Alfredo Guermant, who's been in love with her for over a year. And then we have Violetta, who is obviously the main character of our story. And Violetta is at this scene where we're going to start, is asked to help Alfredo make a toast, and that's where we have that iconic song that I teased you with last week. All right, so let me share my screen. We are going to start right here. This is Renee Fleming, who is one of the most renowned opera sopranos in the world.
Conosco da un anno soltanto e solo da qualche minuto meglio fora se visti da ciucco ben crescioso quanto fin perché non invece simpatico lì e tu dunque non apri più bocca e la madama che scuote la botta meglio bravo e portare come quella vediamo un parole né un verso né un via giovanete quest'ora giuriva dunque a te sì un brindisi l'estro fuggevo l'ora si m'avria voluta, liviam nei dolci fremiti che suscita l'amore, poiché quell'occhio al cuore onnipotente va. Liviamo, amore, amore fra i calici più caldi baci avrà.
So we have that main theme there. And you see in the song, in the piece, they're talking about, you know, life's fleeting pleasures like wine and hope and song, and just kind of this like, you have Violetta singing about that, and then Alfredo countering and saying, well, you know, it's not fleeting when you're in love. And you start to see this kind of these two themes of, you know, diving into the hollow pleasures of life and embracing things like love and that which gives life meaning and depth. Which for our heroine, our frail heroine of Violetta is very difficult because she is dying. And so for her, she's kind of set to dive into that which is fleeting to, you know, kind of help her forget about the sickness that she has. So so this is the first act. This is an opera in 3 acts and 4 scenes, all entirely indoors, which was very unusual for Verdi. He typically had at least one outdoors, one scene outdoors. So as the guests retire to their other rooms, Violetta suddenly grows ill, and while Alfredo is left alone with her, he confesses his love, and she discourages it, but then accepts in kind of a sudden reversal. And as the dawn breaks, as the party ends, the gentlemen must all go home, and Violetta is left alone to contemplate this idea of having a true love for herself. And instead she resolves to plunge herself headlong into, you know, the vortex of the hollow pleasures that make up her existence. So I do want to show just a quick scene of this, of her kind of having this internal battle with herself. Let me just make sure. So this part right here, to love and be loved is a joy I've never known. So one theme that we're going to see a lot in La Traviata is this idea of sacrifice. So we have this idea already with Violetta deciding if she wants to sacrifice her current life and the patronage of the Baron to be, to have a true love for herself. And as we get into Act 2, we're going to see the Violetta and Alfredo living in an idyllic countryside together about 3 months later. And Alfredo will have learned from Violetta's servant, Anina, that Violetta has sold many of her possessions in order to support their lifestyle. And so he returns to the city to raise funds because he wants to contribute to their life as well. And what happens is Violetta gets an unexpected visit from Alfredo's father, who asks her to make another sacrifice. So we're going to skip ahead to a few minutes into the second act, scene 1, a house in the countryside, 3 months later. There we go.
Vostro avere or volete spogliarvi al passato perché v'accusa non esiste ora nel frido e Dio non c'è Alfredo il padre, la sorte, l'avvenir domanda ordine suo.
So he's asking, you and Alfredo are living together. They are unmarried, and Violetta has a very, I guess, impure past. And Alfredo's sister is pledged to be married, but because of what Alfredo is doing with Violetta, it is bringing shame upon the family, because it's kind of, again, we're looking at this scene of love against the backdrop of the hypocrisy of upper class society of, doing what is proper and what is, what is, you don't live with people that you are not married to, and you don't associate with people who have a past and or have lived in sin or are living in sin. And so he's asking her to leave him so that that his sister can keep her betrothal to this gentleman, because if they stay together, she will be left. And of course, for women in that day, their only hope is to either have a patron, such as Violetta does, or to be married. And so he's asking her to make this sacrifice. And again, we see that first sacrifice she made in this next one. And what we're going to see as this scene continues is just a relentless breakdown of her character, and him convincing her to leave him. She says, "Oh, you want me to leave Alfredo for a while?" And again, it appears that she has tuberculosis. And so she does end up agreeing to sacrifice her love, despite it really being the only thing that's helping, that is giving her the will to live in the midst of her sickness. So Germont, who is the father, leaves, and Violetta writes a farewell note to Alfredo. Obviously doesn't tell him why she's leaving, but she is returning to the city and to Baron Dufal's patronage, and has arranged for Alfredo to receive this letter. The dad, Germont, doesn't really leave. He kind of hangs around and is watching this unfold. So we're going to skip ahead to scene 2 of this act. It's in Paris the same night. She said, Flora has invited me to a dance, and she's like, I'm not going. But then she does go because she wants to return to the patronage and to leave Alfredo. So what we see at this party, we have gypsies and a mask of gypsies and bullfighters, and Alfredo appears alone, and Violetta arrives on the arm of Dufal. The two men play an aggressive an aggressive game of cards, and it's kind of like all this testosterone is flying, when she has an opportunity, Violetta speaks to Alfredo alone and begs him to leave and avoid a deadly fight with Dufal, and maintains her promise to leave Alfredo. So we're going to watch this play out. Let's go ahead just a little more.
Pensate l'accusa e falsità, la colpa è nascendino, non accomoda indizio, marchese mio giudizio, ove farò pensi, marchese mio giudizio vi farò pensi, marchese mio giudizio vi farò pensi.
So again, we're seeing this this kind of fleeting pleasures of life theme, and then we're going to skip ahead to Alfredo and Dufal. One moment.
Mi chiamaste? Che bramate? Questo è il luogo che vi sovrasta. Ma comprendo, basta, basta, e Seville mi credete. No, non mai. Ma che temete? Tremo sempre del nome. E fra noi mortal questione si cadrà per mano mia un sol colpo di corria, un sol colpo di corria con l'amante protettore potterisce dal sciagurare. Ma se fosse l'uccisore e con lui la sventura più potendo a me patare la mia morte che vengare e partiti e sono istanti partirò ma giuro in ante che dovunque seguirai i passi miei. No, giammai! No, giammai! Lascia bravo, scorda il nome, che impamato, dammi l'uscio, sul momento, da fatirne giù, venendo fuori. A chi? Dillo, chi potea? A chi il diritto piena mia? Foto fol! Dunque l'ami! E ben, e l'amo! Questa donna conoscete? Violetta. Che facesse non sapete? Tacito. Ogni sua verde femmina per amor mio spardea, io cieco, vile, misero, tua cecar potea, ma è tempo ancora vergermi, da tante che avramo, i testimon vi chiamo, or testimon vi chiamo, or testimon vi chiamo, che qui pagati Allah. Disprezzo degno se stesso rende e torna l'ira la donna offende non è mio figlio più non la vedo in te più Alfredo traverno non so dove mio figlio più non lo vedo e in te più Alfredo trovar non più Alfredo trovar non so.
So I'm gonna unshare my screen for a moment here. So we have this theme of the fallen woman, and as this progresses, we see Violetta's character in her will and her body being broken down bit by bit. First by her sacrificing pleasure for love. Not that those two things are necessarily mutually exclusive, but the fleeting pleasures for a deep love, the breakdown of her body through her illness, the sacrifice of her love, Alfredo, and then Alfredo basically saying that, she he threw his winnings from his card game with Dufal at her. And it's like the breakdown again of the person she loves the most being angry with her. And so this whole opera is just, you slowly watch, this main character of Violetta falling and breaking down and becoming smaller. So we're going to skip ahead to Act 3. This is in Violetta's bedroom a few months later. She is at the end of her life. She will soon die. Violetta asks to give whatever money they have left, asks her her servant to give whatever money they have left to the poor. And Germont has written her a letter saying that Alfredo knows what of her sacrifice and is coming back to beg her forgiveness. But she's kind of out of hope at this point. She thinks it's too late for them to reunite. And kind of she bids farewell to all her hopes and is asking to be released from the suffering she's experiencing. What we're going to see is Alfredo returning and kind of what they talk about. And then we're going to skip ahead to what happens at the end of this opera. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. This opera is obviously very much a tragedy, but is very beautiful. And again, the powerful theme of sacrifice. Skip ahead real quick to their reunion. So she hears the carnival outside and thinks that it's Alfredo returning to her. But in the moment, she doesn't think it, she realizes it's not.
Sono sotto toccata, chissà che fine reso mi sei. Con questo palpito sotto m'impara, senza desistere più non potrei. Ma sta completa, ricavata, mi piacere, non puoi il dolore. Scorda l'affanno, donna dorata, a me perdoni al genitor. Io ti perdoni, Teresa mio, ma solo morta mia. L'uomo demone, angelo mio, mai più di fidermi potrà da te.
So they're reunited. He realizes he was wrong. In a few moments, the father will return and realize that he was also wrong. And they start having this conversation of leaving and being together, leaving Paris. And she kind of engages this, and there's like this denial of what is really happening. Again, you kind of have this juxtaposition of like just these fleeting ideas, these fleeting pleasures, and what is the reality of what's happening. But it's hard to know if he's denying reality or just comforting her in her grief. So we're gonna skip ahead to see how this play, or this opera rather, ends. You'll start to see that she starts talking about, I'm excited, I feel myself coming back to life. Well, I won't spoil the ending. He comes to give his blessing, to their union, but he's too late. Again, we see the sacrificing his highly held faith, but it's too late.
Vegliardo il mal ch'io feci, ora solvero.
Cessarono gli spasimi del dolore in me. Rinasce.
See the lighting change here, and it becomes white. She's saying the pain has stopped. I feel alive. I'm coming back to life. So, you know, that ending scene is so interesting to me because the way that they stage that of changing the lighting, running up, and she says she's coming back to life, and then before she even falls, you hear them sing "She is dead," and so it makes you wonder if she is, you know, are we witnessing her being pain-free after she passes, or does she have like a moment of you know, of healing before she dies, or a moment of relief from her suffering that she prayed for. You know, along with the theme of sacrifice in this opera, I also noticed, again, the juxtaposition of, you know, kind of like love and the things that are really important and that bring us life against the backdrop of society expectations. She's called the fallen woman, and that means many different things for her. She has a, you know, she says there'll be no tears or flowers in my grave. I don't get a cross, because she is kind of a, you know, I guess a Mary Magdalene type. But she's still, you know, by society standards, she is not what they would call lovable or worthy of love. But still she experiences it. And you kind of have this, like, the hypocrisy, like I said earlier, of society and of kind of this, like, almost these arbitrary rules and expectations against what is really real, which is, you know, her love and her realization that she wants to dive into, you know, feeling something real and feeling something true rather than escaping through the hollow pleasures of life. And so along with sacrifice, I do see another theme of like society with its arbitrary rules and fleeting pleasures against, like, the things that are real and that make living worthwhile. So it's a very sad opera, but I think is a very beautiful idea, especially for the time. You know, it's an original idea, but it was against the backdrop of, you know, the 1850s in Italy and in Europe. And so, you know, to portray a woman like this who receives her, you know, I guess, like, redemption I think was very scandalous at the time. But very original, and I think Verdi did a great job of finding that balance between an original idea, but also not going too far as to be censored by Italian society or Venetian society. So anyways, next week we will be doing the Barber of Seville. You've probably heard the song before. I'm gonna give you a little teaser, and I'm gonna show you another teaser next week. But if you recognize this theme, you've seen that probably. It's showed up in commercials and TV shows that I've seen. It's become a very famous theme, kind of similar to the theme of La Traviata. But I hope you will join me next week. It'll be very, very different than the two we have already looked at, and I'm interested to see what you all think of Rossini's Barber of Seville versus Verdi and Puccini. So anyway,
I think the fourth week is Barber of Seville. Next week is, I think, Boheme.
La Boheme. Oh, so we're going to go back to Puccini. My apologies. Yes, we'll be doing La Boheme next week, and another Puccini. So it'll be interesting to compare those two Puccini operas. Well, I wasted my teaser on the wrong thing, so you'll have to wait for the La Boheme, all of the good stuff of La Boheme for next week.
No problem. Well, thank you everybody for being here. And looks like we don't have any questions, so I will let everybody go on with their afternoons. And thanks again, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Melissa.
Bye.
Bye.